know, I'll definitely try and jump on them early and wear them down, and hopefully it benefits us late in the game. But like I said, teams are so used to playing back-to-backs that it's almost not even an issue anymore.
You guys have to get back into a routine now that all these breaks are over, to kind of get back into a regular routine to kind of feel normal again?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely a little bit of a different time we just went through with the All-Star break, 4 games, and this break, so a little bit different, but we've had a few days to readjust and get back into it, so no excuse tonight.
Connor, your GM just kind of suggested that he doesn't expect to be very active with the trade deadline fast approaching here. He's happy with the group despite the recent slide. As a captain, what do you think when you hear that?
Yeah, I mean it's a real positive. I think everyone can feel safe and can find comfort and the GM and the management staff believing in us, and I think the guys in the room can definitely feel good about that.
How different is a team in Arizona than a team like Chicago that just faced on Saturday?
Yeah, Chicago obviously is high flying, offensive, and Arizona is a little bit more defensive, and looks to win games 1-0 and all that. So we definitely have to figure out a way to come through the middle and beat their neutral zone trap kind of, and find a way to put some offensive pressure on them.
Do you want to comment on your new line? Your look line?
For you, it's been a tough year offensively. Obviously, you wanted to do more, and you're not the only one. There's quite a few guys that are struggling. It doesn't matter maybe what happened. It's also moving forward. You've had a reputation of being able to score at key times. Do you feel that you have that in you now as the games get more important to break out?
Well, you know what, it's, and I just talked about pressure and the games and how, pivotal they are in moving us forward and trying to solidify a playoff spot. But, that's what I said. That's when the game gets fun. Obviously the goals haven't gone in like I wanted them to, but, I have a chance here with 26 games and the most meaningful games of the season to start putting the puck in the net a little bit more and helping the team, like I said, get into that playoff spot. And that's the best part about hockey.
Milan talked about it the other day, that obviously when you're not scoring as regular, he goes, even veterans, your confidence wanes. You try to avoid that. And you see little things like your foot maybe not being planted where you would. Have you noticed that? Are there things yesterday, there was a lot of shooting drills that you did. Was that beneficial to you? Do you think that's something you need to focus on?
Well, I think as a skilled guy, the more touches you can get, the better. The more confident you start to foot the puck. I think, obviously, like Milan said, when the puck's not going in, you lose confidence. You start thinking too much. You start, putting yourselves in situations where maybe you're not. But, like I said, you get a chance here in the last couple of days to practice and get more touches, feel more confident with the puck, and start trying to get back to normal and feeling confident about scoring even in practice. I think that's, the little things like that is what brings you back.
And some line juggling across the board for everyone. You played a lot with Connor this year. It's been a while. What do you have to do to get back in and maybe get in the flow that you guys had last year?
Well, I mean, Connor's obviously a pretty dynamic player. I think for me, defensively, on the wall, you got to make plays to be able to get him the puck with speed so that he can carry it in. I think with his speed, he's able to gain access to the other team's end pretty easily and a lot easier than a lot of guys can. So that's number one. I think number two, you got to be able to get open. Obviously, he's a guy he's a great passer, and he can find you anywhere. So I think you got to be open and get ready. So.
Jordan, I was late getting in here, but your GM, you probably know your GM just suggested that he's happy with the group despite the recent slide. He doesn't expect to be too active going into deadline day. You've been here for a while. How different does it feel in that regard when your GM says that at this time of year?
Well, it's a different, for sure, a different feeling. I think usually around this time there's talks of moving guys out. So you know what? For me personally, and as a team, I think when we look at where we are, we're in a playoff spot, which is obviously the first goal. But I think second off, we have a chance here with 26 games here to try and move up and catch some momentum moving into the playoffs. So individually for me, you want to start putting the puck in a little bit more, and there's no better time than right now to try and, like I said, solidify the playoff spot.
Thanks, Jordan.
had 2 full days of practice, a lot of opportunity to work on a lot of things. Just what's your sense of this team and the mood going into this game against Arizona?
I think you're going to see a sense of urgency from the guys. It's been a couple of hard days in practice, both on and off the ice, just with some video and stuff like that, and just trying to work on areas that we can improve. Obviously, we haven't been at our best the last 4 or 5 games, but I think hopefully we're going to turn the page here.
26 games left. There's been a lot of talk over maybe the last few weeks, even of playing playoff-type games. Did we kind of see a playoff-type game and team in Chicago the other day? And can you learn some lessons from the way they kind of dug in and scored scrappy goals and all that?
Yeah, I mean, they've won 3 cups in the last 6 years for a reason, and they're obviously a great team, and they know how to win, and we're learning how to win, and I think we can take a lot of stuff from their game and try to implement it into ours. And I'm not saying that we have to play like them, but there's a few things that we can definitely take away from them and add to our game. And like I said, or like you said, sorry, those goals in the paint and getting pucks to the dirty areas, and not trying to make the pretty play, just make the right play, and get a little grittier and play more playoff type hockey.
Has that sense of the playoffs looming and the season's coming to a close, is that starting to find itself into the room? And I don't know if it's pressure that you start to feel, but do you start to get that sense that, hey, it's almost spring, it's almost that time of year, we're in the mix? Are you guys starting to kind of get that sense and taste?
Yeah, I think guys are starting to talk about it a lot more. The coaching staff is starting to talk about it, and as you can see, the standings are real close, and with 26 games left, it's going to be even tighter. And we just got to make sure we play playoff hockey the rest of the way through, and that's the way it's going to be. Every team is going to be playing that way, and it doesn't matter if they're first or last. It's going to be that type of hockey, and we just got to make sure we bring that every game.
Having said that, what do you expect from this Arizona team that kind of had their way with the Flames last night?
Yeah, they've been hot lately. They've won a lot of games, and they're beating some pretty good teams. And there's no easy games in this league. It doesn't matter where you are in the standings. Just got to make sure you bring your game every time, and any team can beat any team on any given night. You just got to make sure you prepare yourself as best you can, and make sure you give yourself the best chance to win.
Finally, just is there a sense of pressure for secondary scoring, do you sense? And as a guy that's maybe expected to bring a little bit of that, I know you're a rookie still, but is that talked about too, and is that kind of on the minds of guys?
Yeah, I think we can't rely on one line or one guy to kind of carry the load. It's got to be a top to bottom thing, and maybe not necessarily always scoring goals, but from top to bottom, the lineup's got to be producing at some sort of level, whatever it may be, whether it's doing well in the special teams or just chipping in whenever they can 5-on-5, and it doesn't have to necessarily be points, but a big shot block or a big hit or momentum, right? So everyone's got to chip in, but that secondary scoring is definitely something we need, and heading in a playoff, especially the playoff run, you're going to need that secondary scoring to be a good team.
Excellent as always. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
7, 8, 9.
morning, Drew. How was your holiday? Seems like we're still on it.
Todd, I just want to ask you about Eero Pakarinen. What are you expecting out of him tonight, and is he a guy that you have to ease back in the lineup?
Second part of the question, yeah, of course. The only hockey he's played, obviously, is in the American League, and even there, it took him a little while to get going. By the last game he played, he started to feel right. So we don't have high expectations for him, but yet we expect him to contribute to the game. Players may have a tendency to give you more in game one than they do in games 3 and 4, just because they're excited about being back. And we could use that spark when he's playing well. He's an aggressive forechecker, turns pucks over, willing to play physical, and he's got a deceptive shot, a pretty heavy shot, a heavy release, and can be effective that way. I can hear you.
Speaking of shots, Drake Caggiula has a pretty good shot. A few of his teammates are saying how they've noticed it in practice, trying to encourage him to use it more. Is on the wing now. Is there opportunity, you think, for him to be more of a shooter playing there?
We're going to find out. That's his natural position. He's played there in the past, and you go back to his college career, he scored a lot off the wing, coming down and finding that hole. I think you tend to have the puck in the middle more than you do on the wing, but you're likely looking to dish it off. So maybe he'll get more shooting opportunities than he's had in the past, but I think there's more offense in Drake. I think there's plenty more offense in Drake. And like some other players on our team, he's got to start producing and finishing every now and then so that we get some secondary scoring.
Is Pouliot just day-to-day, and is Russell still day-to-day, or is that longer?
Pouliot is, I guess he would be day-to-day, yeah. Okay. And Russell is dealing with a lower body injury. It's hard to predict the time frame. He's had this injury before this year, so it's hard to predict his time frame. We'll call it day-to-day. Hopefully it doesn't turn into week-to-week, but he is skating today, so it's a good sign.
What do you want to see from Jordan Eberle this time around with Connor McDavid that you maybe haven't seen in the past?
Well, we wouldn't if we were playing the way we were prior to the All-Star break. We wouldn't be making lineup changes. We liked what was happening with a lot of the lines, including Ebbs and Nuge, but we haven't been playing there. So it's not just about Jordan getting up there with Connor. It's about shaking everybody up and getting more out of them. But Jordan, when he was playing with Connor and it wasn't working, and then he went into that funk, he wasn't getting to the spots he needed to get to score. He got very desperate there for a while. There was a lot of talk in the media community and in our locker room about getting him going, and he did some things that allowed him to score again, going to the blue paint, getting opportunities, was ringing shots off the post. In my opinion, I haven't seen that from him over the last 5 or 6 games, and it's time to get back to that. Maybe Connor can help him.
So further to that point, Peter just spoke and did an availability and, certainly said there's a plan here in terms of the perception maybe, and some of the fans might think maybe there needs to be some cavalry coming in, but are there not internal solutions that could assist in that process and maybe alleviate the pressure on the manager at this stage?
Yeah, it's interesting, the trade deadline talk, and we're 2 weeks away from it. It has changed so dramatically in my 2 years here. Last year at this time, everybody's, who are you selling, where are these guys going? Now we're talking about adding pieces. It's such a big swing. In both cases, though, there are players in your own lineup that have to produce more and can be considered acquisitions if they get themselves going. I think of 3 in particular: Luch, Luch, Eberle, and Nugent Hopkins. If those 3 just get going the way they're capable of going on a consistent basis, that's like acquiring some pretty good players. And, on the other hand, you could bring Wayne Gretzky back, and if those 3 or 4 players don't produce on a regular basis the way they're capable of, it doesn't matter. So we're looking internally as a staff, and I think that's maybe what your question angle was. We're looking internally at ways that we can try and get a few others up and running. Forget about what's coming from the outside. Let's make what we have here better and get them producing the way they can.
Todd, earlier in the season with the new building, the ice seemed to be a little bit of an issue. Where is it at now? Is it still an issue?
That's a hard question to answer. When you haven't played well here at home in the last few games, it'd be a lot easier to answer when you're winning 5-1 or 5-2. But I still hear players, and in fact, I catch myself a little bit at times mumbling or grumbling about it. It's got a ways to go, but our building is no different than a lot in the National Hockey League this year. There's talk all over the place about the ice quality, and with that being said, the league has very capable and very qualified people that are participating with each of the teams to make it as playable as possible. It's almost an art in its own, and a lot of factors go into it, but we're working hard to try and get ours into tip-top shape.
Two things with Jordan's game, Todd. One, it seems he'll come down the wing and he's always looking to button hook for somebody, and whereas in previous years he'd have the ability to beat guys wide and then go to the net. So how do you get him to get back to that? And then number two, his footwork and some of his shots hasn't had him lined up. So even if he's in a good shooting lane, he's not there to take the shot. Is that something you worked on with the shooting drills yesterday?
Well, we're talking about technical things and situations that may arise 3 or 4 times. In the past, Jordan's been able to drive wide. We've seen it in highlight reels. I think his first goal in the league in Calgary, I still remember seeing it all the time. What happens over time is players have a tendency set to their game, and teams adjust and they learn how to check it. And when Jordan is turning up or pulling up, maybe he feels like he can't get there, or else he's choosing not to, one of the two. I would tend to believe it's more of the first one because of how teams are playing him now. And the shot part of it, over the last 5-6 years that he's been in the league, the defending areas and the shot blocking and the layers of people in the way has gone up dramatically. It may not show in pure numbers as far as blocks go, but what you visually see when you get the puck is a little different now than it was 6, 7, 8 years ago. You can look up now and see a wall. So it's sometimes being too precise, holding on to it a little too long, and that wall gets thicker and deeper. But we've talked about some of these things. Offensively, as a group, you can score in your outnumbered rushes. You can score on secondary chances in the blue paint, deflections, tip-in screens. You can score off face-off plays, and you can score in the power play. I don't know if there's many other opportunities to score a little bit off the cycle and that type of stuff. But when you evaluate our team and Jordan and whoever else we're talking about, we haven't scored off an outnumbered rush in ages, and we've had many of them because we're too cute. Our secondary tip-ins, deflections, screens, getting to loose pucks around the paint hasn't been strong. So we addressed that this week. Our face-off numbers are what they are, but we still should get some opportunities in the offensive zone where we're winning. We haven't taken advantage of that, and then certainly the power play needs to be better. So from an offensive perspective, there's some areas that we've addressed over the last few days. I've kind of gone on from your technical question with Jordan, but
Speaking of the power play, Clefbaum and Sekera, by moving them from each unit, what different look does Clefbaum maybe add to the number one or vice versa?
Passer. Sekera is more of a puck mover. It's more of a lob. Clefbaum's more of a shot. Teams are overplaying Connor and Leon right now, and therefore maybe Clef has some, has a lane from the top. Clefs are one guy that scores from a distance and has range to his shot. So maybe that makes a little bit of difference. And in turn, it may open up Letestu, who early in the year had a number of shooting opportunities, which he has had on our power play. He just hasn't been polished enough to take advantage of them. Yep.